Hey everyone, Matt here and welcome to another video. In tonight's video, I'm going to be talking about a fragrance that I have recently fallen in love with, a fragrance that I think is really under the radar in terms of its quality and in terms of the type of fragrance that it is. The fragrance that I'm going to bring to you guys in this review is Ajee by Revlon. And this fragrance was launched way back in 1994. And this comes from a time when a lot of perfumes were starting to become very, very oriental. Oriental fragrances were very popular, basically, during the 90s. And this one was Revlon's version of what they could do with a warm, spicy, charismatic fragrance. This fragrance was intended for women when it first came out. However, nowadays I think it's easily unisex, hence why it's in my collection. I absolutely love the smell of this. I think it's unique. I think it's different. This is apparently a cologne. I would have to disagree. I think it has the strength of a perfume without a doubt. Classed as a drugstore fragrance, technically, this, guys. I think a lot of people would remember this if they were old enough during the 90s to remember that this was around in a lot of drugstores. Of course, Revlon aren't exactly a big brand to promote their fragrances in department stores. Of course, if you guys aren't recognizable with the House of Revlon, you guys will recognize maybe a perfume like Charlie. That one was very popular in the 1920s. Sorry, the 1920s. What am I thinking? So Charlie is another fragrance that was launched from this company, and that one was really, really popular during the 60s and the 70s. And this one, I think, was not as popular as, say, those type of fragrances, hence why this one is discontinued. To me, this is a recreation of another fragrance, which I will talk about when we talk about the smell. But let's get into the overall smell of this amazing fragrance right here. So I'm just going to show you guys the bottle real quick, actually. We get a G written on there. And we get a spray here, which of course looks really old-fashioned. The bottle, when the cap's off, actually just looks really, whoops. It actually just looks it looks really cheap. Of course, this fragrance wasn't expensive. I paid like £8 for this on eBay. It is vintage, of course, with it being a discontinued scent. This was discontinued, I think, in the early 2000s. So this might even be a 2000s bottle, I don't know. So it's only lasted about 10 years on the market before it was discontinued. But it's really nice. We get this like frosted glass here. We get the juice inside, which is like an ambery color. We get a G. We get this purple cap, which also has a G. So you guys can see, there we go. Really, really nice little feature there. And I really like that. So let's go ahead and spray it. Here we go. Okay, the smell. Wow, I can already smell it. This stuff is this stuff's strong, guys. For being a cologne, very, very strong. I wouldn't necessarily call this a cologne, especially nowadays. I mean, obviously, when it first came out, a lot of fragrances would have had this strength behind them. And the companies that were releasing these fragrances obviously just called them whatever they wanted to call them. This opens up very, very fresh, very powdery, very balsamic. There's a nice orange note, or I think it's a tangerine orange, which opens up absolutely delightful. Like, really, really, really nice. And there's a little bit of bergamot there as well. But in general, what I get mainly out of this fragrance, guys, is a spicy scent. It's woody and it's kind of floral as well. There's a ton of Ylang Ylang flower, which really gives this fragrance that balsamic, warm character that it really has. There's some geranium and there's also some Palisander Rosewood, which really gives this fragrance a nice woody soft base. A little bit of amber in here as well, a little bit of vanilla. But what this fragrance really is about is the spices. Now I get personally more of like a clove, actually more clove than a cinnamon. But it's light and it's not overly done in a spicy way. It's done in a very balsamic, sort of ambery way, which really, really is beautiful. This fragrance definitely falls into the same reign as, say, fragrances like Obsession. It also smells very similar to Opium from YSL. So this fragrance does have its similarities, and I think that this would have been a perfect fragrance for someone who, say, couldn't have afforded Obsession, or say if you couldn't afford Opium. This would have been a really, really good fragrance for that time. It just smells really, really, really nice. I'm definitely getting a lot of those like spicy balsamic notes coming through. That orange is still there, creating a nice zest. Really gives the fragrance this all-round, bright, feel-good sort of smell, to be honest. It really, really is gorgeous. There is a little bit of iris in here as well, which I do detect. I wouldn't say it's like the strongest note. If anything, it's one of the least notes I smell. But there is an iris in there. And I smell it a little bit with that orange. And that Ylang Ylang, which gives this fragrance this exotic kind of smell. Now, I do also have the box here, guys, which I'm going to show you. I'm really interested to see what you guys think of the box. I'm just going to focus here so you guys can see. This is what the box looks like. It's blue. It looks black on here, but we get a G and we get like cologne spray underneath. And it gives like the size of the bottle, which is a 1.8 fluid ounce. And it's got some writing on the back here, guys. I'm going to read it out for you. It says here, the essence of Africa, the power of woman. Okay. It also says here, a fragrance steeped in rare and exotic ingredients that come together in a scent unlike any other. Warmly sensuous, deeply mysterious. It's a fragrance as complex and compelling as that inspired it, the woman who wears it. So, yeah, they were really mass marketing this fragrance as a woman's scent. Nowadays, it really doesn't really matter. Fragrances nowadays, especially with the older perfumes that you'll find marketed for women, a lot of them will have this, masculine edge. And this one certainly does. It like I said before, how I said it has this similar smell to Obsession? Well, it's definitely there. And of course, Obsession for men, to me, smells very similar to the original for women. So I definitely get a kind of Obsession for men vibe out of this. But at the same time, the jasmine in this fragrance really gives this fragrance a clean, sort of comforting, powdery smell. Which is something that Obsession doesn't have. That's a very bold amber scent, which does have its powdery aspects, of course, but this one is definitely more gentle. It's still a bold fragrance. When I say gentle, I don't mean it's soft. I mean it's still a bold fragrance, but if anything, it's more of a soft approach to, say, what Calvin Klein Obsession is. People also compare it to Opium. I do get a little similarity, but if anything, it's more close to Obsession than Opium. I just love this fragrance, guys. Really, really like it. It's really gorgeous. And like I said before, it may be for women. Well, it's marketed for women. I don't really care about all that stuff. I think the whole fact of having fragrances genderized, I think it's going to go extinct soon. And I think these days people are just going to wear whatever the hell they want. I mean, I've been wearing what I wanted for years. I've never cared about what people think. Of course, I'm not really a big fan of any of like the candy sweet, feminine kind of fragrances. I love a women's fragrance, if you want to call it a women's fragrance. I love fragrances that smell different and they have a story to them and they have like a boldness and a depth to them. And to me, this one certainly does. I think, when I was reading the statement out about this fragrance, it said that this fragrance was inspired by Africa. I have to say personally that I think this is, I mean, it's a really nice inspiration behind it, but I don't really get any sort of like African traits with this fragrance. Not that I would, not that I know exactly what makes an African trait in a fragrance, but yeah, it's still a really interesting blend. Nevertheless, I think if you're somebody who just likes interesting blends, and you're someone who just wants to smell good, I've said this a lot in my videos. This because it's true what I say. If you're just someone who likes smells and you don't care what people really think, this is one of those fragrances that I think you'll be really surprised by. So yeah, synopsis on the smell. Just talked about it, but I'm going to narrow it down for you guys. This is a beautiful light orange scent in the beginning, which then dries down to a very nice soft clovey kind of cinnamon scent with a lot of Ylang Ylang flower, making it very, very powdery and balsamic, and drying down to a lovely amber, which smells just so, so nice. The amber isn't as strong as, say, I mean, I don't want to compare it to Obsession too much, but this is probably the closest fragrance. That's probably the closest fragrance I would compare it to, basically, which would be Calvin Klein Obsession. The amber is not as strong as in this one as it is in Obsession, but it is still there, and it still creates a lovely, unique, soft, powdery scent, which I think people do need to check out. It's really, really good. If you can still find a bottle of this, please do check it out. I think you'll be really, really surprised, really, because it just smells different. Even though I've compared it to Obsession, I've compared it to Opium, it still has this unique characteristic to it, and it's gorgeous. And something interesting, guys, about the name, Ajee means fighter, and it also means intelligent. So it comes across as something meaning strength in African origins, which is really interesting. So really cool name. I really like the smell of this guy. So let's get on to my ratings. So in terms of the ratings for Ajee by Revlon, I'm going to give the smell a 8 out of 10. I think this is a very, very nice fragrance. Could be considered too similar to Obsession, but that doesn't bother me. I still think this fragrance is unique in its own right, and of course, this is why I'm reviewing it. Marketed as a woman's fragrance, to me, completely unisex. If you love powdery, balsamic, ambery fragrances, you're gonna love this. This is a winner in my opinion. So I'm gonna give the fragrance itself an 8 out of 10. The longevity, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10. I think this stuff really has some potency behind it for a cologne. May not have the potency as an eau de parfum, but very, very much eau de toilette type cologne concentration here, guys. I get easily about 7 hours out of this, 7 to 8 hours, which is fantastic for a cologne. Really, really fantastic. I get that type of longevity out of most of my EDTs in my collection. Which is really, really good. So in terms of the longevity, it's going to get an 8 out of 10. It's really up there, guys. And in terms of, usually I review the bottle design first, but we're going to go with the bottle design last this time, guys. I'm going to give the bottle design I'm just going to give it a 6 out of 10. I think I still really do like it. I like the shape of it, how it has this like curvature around here, and yeah, it's got like this frosted glass, and then we just get Ajee. It would be nice if it had Revlon maybe along the bottom, or say Revlon next to it. That would have looked really nice. But in terms of the overall presentation, I think it's nice. The cap is like it has like a hollowed out plastic covering. And the sprayer is, well, the spray, you can't really complain. The only problem is it drips a little bit, and I've actually got some of the fragrance here in my hand at the moment, which is a bit of a disappointment. But it seems to, it's just because it's old, and that doesn't really bother me. But still really good, sorry, I'm going to talk slower. Still really good condition for the age of it. Really, really good stuff, guys. So in terms of the bottle design, I'm going to give this a... what should I give it? I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. That's what I'm going to give it. So for bottle design, 7 out of 10 is what I'm going to give it. I think it's well suited. So that's my ratings, guys. That's what I'm going to rate for Ajee by Revlon. Hope you've enjoyed my review. Stay tuned for the next one, guys. See you soon, guys. Have a good one. Bye.